You might have seen this video posted on Twitter or Telegram with the claims that it shows the crucial explosion that destroyed the Kakhovka dam. Well, it doesn't. This video is from last year and shows a Ukrainian artillery barrage which aimed to destroy or damage the dam. The Kakhovka dam is situated north of the Dnieper delta. The dam both provides electricity to the closer area but also cooling to the Zaporizhzhia power plant. The Kakhovka reservoir holds 18 cubic kilometers of water, an equivalent to the Great Salt Lakes in the US. Welcome back to the Geopolitics Nexus Report, the home of the greatest news from all around the world. The destruction of the Kakhovka dam on June 6th has now been the second major explosion in Ukraine or related to Ukraine, where who is responsible for the explosion is not really clear and probably won't be for a very long time. One position which might seem reasonable, as the explosion obviously isn't beneficial for both sides, is that the dam just collapsed from itself. The dam had for years now been neglected. The dam already faced a problem for the last years in the form of a lack of maintenance. Besides this lack of maintenance, following the Russian withdrawal from its positions west of the Dnieper in Kherson Oblast, they blew up the road which was stationed on the dam. In mind the remaining road, which was still intact. But Russia also began to empty the Kakhovka reservoir, which resulted in it reaching record lows. This ended up not being the problem, as Russia ironically began to fill the dam back up, which resulted in it reaching record highs, which some say ended up being one of the leading factors in the collapse of the dam, as some reports claim that the dam already prior to the explosion began to leak water. But this probably didn't happen, as it is pretty much confirmed that it had to have been an explosion, as both Norsar, the Norwegian seismic array, which includes seismic array detectors in Romania built to detect nuclear explosions, and American spy satellites picked up on the explosion. Similarly, reports from Kakhovka, the city close to the Kakhovka dam, also mentions an explosion or reports of sounds of an explosion. Pro-Ukrainian sources claim that the explosion must have come from inside the Russian-controlled dam, as the dam, similar to basically everything that was built by the Soviet Union, was built to withstand a nuclear holocaust, and that it would take at least more 500 kg bombs to damage the dam to the point it was damaged now. It is also important to mention that the dam, as a result of how it is built, cannot be partially destroyed by a force from the outside. And now looking at the leak that was created, Ukrainian sources claim that this could only be done by an internal explosion. Russian sources claim that the dam was destroyed as a result of a HIMARS strike or the like. It is important to note that, as previously mentioned, the Ukrainians already bombed the dam back in last winter during the battle for Kherson Oblast to stop Russian supplies crossing the Dnieper. But it is important to mention that one strike was actually aimed directly at one of the gates, try to test if it was possible to destroy the gates. Considering that we currently do not have any credible evidence to make absolute claims, let's look at what both sides would lose and gain from the destruction of the dam. The destruction of the dam, as seen by this prediction, with this being the normal flow of the Dnieper into the Black Sea and this being the flow of the Dnieper into the Black Sea now, mostly targets the east bank and the marshlands between the two banks. This reportedly destroyed many of the Russian defenses built up following the retreat from Kherson. This, in combination with the west bank only limitedly being flooded, would allow Ukraine to potentially, once the water levels recede, to immediately launch an offensive against an unprepared and unentrenched force. But on the other side, the flooding also expanded the buffer between the two banks, which will make any crossing much harder. This would make the limited raids the Ukrainian armed forces has been doing over the last years with varied success basically impossible. This has already been done by the Russians following the initial withdrawal from Kherson. Both sides could also claim that the other side, who blew up the dam, was intentionally killing civilians and didn't care for its population. One point which has been somewhat oversaturated but is very much valid still is the water connection of Crimea to Ukraine. Crimea is dependent on this water connection, which runs through the Kherson Oblast to the region around Kakhovka, and the destruction of the water dam will most likely jeopardize the Crimean water supply. But it's also important to note that the water storages in Crimea are reported to be full. But besides these somewhat subjective points, what else can we learn from this event? For one, that Ukraine will most likely not be able to start any major offenses in Kherson until the water levels recede. It is also important to note that if the water levels continue to fall like they have been until now, the Zaporizhzhia power plant will be endangered and might face meltdown if this event is not accounted for. Similar to Nord Stream, we don't know who actually blew up the dam and won't know for a long time, but I think there are some indicators people could look into more to get closer who actually blew up the dam. primarily troop movements and the positioning of equipment along the Dnieper. This could be a major factor to show who actually planned this explosion, based on who moved their troops away or who didn't. Thank you for watching. I'm Markus Weismann, signing out.